How will I know if anyone will even like my upcoming book? This is a question that many of us authors struggle with, and today we're gonna address how you can know whether your books will sell or not. I found this book, Seven Figure Fiction by T. Taylor, and it just blew my mind. Oh my god, it was such a great book, and I highly recommend that you read it if you want to write fiction that actually sells and that actually that connects with your readers. This is what it says on Amazon about the book. There is only, in my humble opinion, two kinds of readers. The readers who love your book and readers who don't know they love your books yet. But how do you reach those readers in the second category, no matter what kind of writer you are? The answer to that question is universal fantasy is why my sales tripled when I accidentally wrote 3 books that landed on the Amazon Top 100. Universal fantasy is why authors will get gobs of gushes in reviews, and some authors who write way better get crickets. And yeah, if you haven't read the book already, I definitely highly recommend that you read it for yourself. But anyhow, I'm going to teach you what I learned from the book in this video. But what is a universal fantasy, and what is the difference between a universal fantasy and, for example, a trope? I think a lot of us authors have heard about tropes, but maybe not about universal fantasies. And the way that T. Taylor describes it is that a trope is, what the story is, and a universal fantasy is why it's good. So there is a difference there, as you can tell. And some of the best universal fantasies can actually go against the reader's real-life morals. And this is why you should keep an eye out for those opposites to real fantasies, because they are gold. And I would say that a great example of this is Haunting Adeline. This book is probably quite controversial, but for those of us who hang out a lot on TikTok, we've heard about it. It's a stalker romance book, which has some very controversial themes in it. But the thing is, it does contain a lot of great universal fantasies. For one example that I've spotted, which is a universal fantasy for a lot of us, is of course the fact that, someone gets so obsessed with us and someone likes us that much that they will go through any lengths to be with us and to see what we're doing. And that's of course, I wouldn't want someone to stalk me in real life. But in a book, which is a safe environment, there it's kind of cool. It's kind of like, oh my God, what if someone wasn't that obsessed with me? What if someone thought my books were that good or that I was that pretty? I don't know. But it's a universal fantasy for a lot of people that someone looks up to you that much. And I think that is one of the reasons why this book gets so popular. And a few other universal fantasies are, of course, being removed from your boring life. This is a universal fantasy that I guess Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and a lot of those play into, of course, because they are ripped out of the boring life that they had before and are thrown into an adventure. My upcoming fantasy has traces of this too, which makes me really happy because I think that will really hit home for some readers. And other universal fantasy can be like Slay Goddess, which is a super powerful female main character. It could be one night stand turns out to be the one and stuff like that. And the reason why these universal fantasies work is partly because, in real life, when it comes to love, for example, love and relationships are hard. And that's why it's really nice sometimes when it's a bit easier in the books. If it's in a book, when the true love universal fantasy, that makes it no matter what they do, you as a reader know that they will end up together because they have to. And that's a relief, because in real life, you have to work really hard for a relationship to stay good and stay great. Now I'm going to read some more universal fantasies from the book here. So Badass Cinderella is one of them. Being removed from your boring life. I already said that one. Being waited on. Oh, I don't know what that is. Comeback Kids. Contemplation, Created Families, Created Worlds with Rules, Scandals, Secrets and Questions, Faithful Dog, True Love's Match, Overcoming Parental Privilege, Pluck the Reward, a suffering main character, the bully really likes you, the amazing makeover, the fixer-upper, and so forth. I think that this is so interesting that, like, basically it's psychology that makes the stories work really much. And the fact that we let ourselves indulge in these things that, yeah, we want in our fantasies, but maybe not in our real life. Because in my real life, I love where I live. I love the family I have. I love my partner. But for a few moments when I read a book, when I indulge in a great fantasy, then it's okay to just, think about those things. Imagine a different life, what that could have been like. And if you want to know if you have universal fantasies within your own writing, you should pay attention to those moments in your story when, like, your tummy flutters, and pay attention to special sections, actions, and pieces of dialogue that elicit a bodily reaction. Maybe it's tummy flutters, heart palpitation, lost breath, stirrings below the waist, anything that literally gives you the feels, and figure out the universal why. This is also something, now that I'm putting the finishing touches of the editing of my fantasy novel before it goes to the editor, this is also something that I've been looking out for quite a bit, because right now I'm editing like the final 30 pages or something like that. It's closing into the end, and I noticed that one of the chapters, like, the solution that I had put there was too simple, and it did not make my heart beat faster, because up until that, like, it was build up. It was so, I could, feel the suspense in the story, but then there was a chapter when it was supposed to be one of the solutions, and it just fell flat. So that was a big, like, oh no, big red flag. So I actually went out for a 45-minute run without headphones, without anything, just to work through and think about the manuscript, let my brain work in a quiet surrounding. And after doing that, I actually figured out how to make the ending a lot better, and how to work in some of the universal fantasies, and to add a lot more suspense. And that felt so great, especially now. I mean, I really, really love this story, and I really, really want you guys, you readers, to love it too. So that's one of the reasons why I read this book, Seven Figure Fiction, because I want to know that it has something to offer for you guys. And T. Taylor writes that trope is your story's why, what it is. Universal fantasy is your trope's why it's good. And when it's done right, good universal fantasies not only gives the tropes in your book life, but it also helps you sell to readers outside your target audience. And I guess this is also one of the very, very important things here, because I want as many people as possible to read my books and love them. I really hope that you will. And that's why, even like when I'm writing, there are things that I am taking into account when it comes to my marketing. I've been talking about this book since I started writing it, which is 1 or 2 years ago. And I know that there are a few readers that really, really want to read it now, because I've been talking about it so much. And I've been like mini marketing it along the way, and also talking about like the ups and downs and struggles and stuff like that. But now that it's almost done, I will have a cover by the end of August, and now I can actually start talking about the tropes, universal fantasies and stuff like that. Because if you only work with the tropes, then it can also still fall flat, I guess. Because we also need that connection to our feelings. And I guess that is the key thing. That is the main thing of what a universal fantasy actually is. And T. Taylor, as well as many other best-selling authors, she's convinced that it is universal fantasies that make her books bestsellers. And I hope that she's right, and that it will work as well for me too. I've been seeing other authors talk about this here on YouTube, so I'm giving it a go, and we will see what happens. But I do think it's a great book, and I also think that it's so good to think about, like, what universal fantasies are with me in this chapter. What universal fantasies do I put in, on the backside of the book? Because this is super important for selling as well. It's the cover, it's what it says on the backside. This is what you guys will make you guys decide whether you want to read the book or not. And that's why, you have to think about all these things around it. I can't just be immersed in my own world. I need to think about those things too, I guess. Yeah, these are my key takeaways from the book. 7-Figure Fiction. Read the book. She goes through a lot of great examples and stuff like that. She even breaks down some stories that we've all heard to give examples of, multiple universal fantasies that are built into them. So I hope that this helped you also think a little bit about what you have in your story, because I think that only having one universal fantasy would probably be too little. If you only have a love triangle as a universal fantasy, then maybe that won't be enough. You have to have more to actually make someone read the entire story, I think. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, it will really help if you give it a thumbs up. I'll be back next week with more videos like this. Bye!